Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mary, and today's video is going to be another very exciting installment in the series I do on my channel where I allow Sorry, a childhood favorite board game of mine, to decide my TBR for the month. So if you've never been here before, I have adjusted the rules for this, or I guess if you've been here before but the last time was a long time ago. I don't play this every month anymore because I'm busy and I don't always have time to do random TBRs. I have to sort of pick things to go towards videos that I'm planning on doing for the month, but my June is pretty open, so I decided to play my game. I do only pick 4 cards each time, and I'm just gonna go through what those 4 cards are. I'll move around the board and I'll show you what prompts I land on, and then I'll let you know what I'm reading for each prompt. So without further ado, the first card pull is as follows. Hello, it's been a minute, but we're starting over here on Classics where we left off in February's TBR. And let's see what the first pick is. Move backwards 4. Which puts us right back at Classic. So the first card that I pulled, or the first space that I landed on rather, was to read a classic. And for this, I have decided that I'm going to pick up The Stranger by Albert Camus. Albert Camus. Not Albert Camus, which is what I used to say. Sorry if you can hear my dog. He just flopped down on the ground and his collar hit the hardwoods. So, all right. Through this story of an ordinary man unwittingly drawn into a senseless murder on a sun-drenched Algerian beach, Camus explores what he termed the nakedness of man faced with the absurd. So, I know this is a philosophy book. Albert Camus is a philosopher. I've never read this. My partner has read it, or my husband has read it, actually. I think he read it in high school, and we have it, so I'm gonna read it. I don't always have the best luck with philosophy and books written by philosophers, but I have high hopes for this. It's very short, so it should be simple enough to get through, and I'm trying to get back into physically reading things more, so hopefully having a very short book will allow me to do that. Second book. Move forward 3. So pushes us past home. So that's a book with queer rep. The second prompt that I landed on was to read a queer book or a book with queer representation. And that's perfect because June is Pride Month. So for this, I'm going to be reading The Line of Beauty by Alan Hollinghurst. Again, I'm trying to read books that I own, so I pretty much just went through all of the books on this top shelf here to see what matched for queer rep. I don't own that many books that have queer rep in them, shockingly. But this says, it is the summer of 1983, and 20-year-old Nick Guest has moved into an attic room in the Notting Hill home of the Feddens, Conservative Member of Parliament Gerald, his wealthy wife Rachel, and their 2 children, Toby, whom Nick had idolized at Oxford, and Catherine, highly critical of her family's assumptions and ambitions, who becomes both a friend to Nick and his uneasy responsibility. As the boom years of the mid-'80s unfold, Nick, an innocent in matters of politics and money, becomes caught up in the Feddens world, its grand politics, its surprising alliances, its parade of monsters, both comic and menacing. In an era of endless possibility, he finds himself able to pursue his own private obsession with beauty, a prize as compelling to him as power and riches are to his friends. An affair with a young black clerk gives him his first experience of romance, but it is a later affair with a beautiful millionaire that will change his life more drastically and bring into question the larger fantasies of a ruthless decade. So, I'm gonna read this. This is obviously the opposite of this. It's much larger, but you know, it won the Man Booker Prize, and I also have a tendency to find prize winners hit or miss. So I'm excited to see if I like that one. I did get it for like $9 from a used bookstore. So I'm very excited to give that book a shot. Third, move forward 2. Nonfiction. Then I landed on nonfiction, and for this, I picked Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates, which is a memoir, I believe, by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I don't know that much about it. I know it is blurbed by Toni Morrison, who's one of my favorite authors. Oop, and this says, "This is your country, this is your world, this is your body, and you must find some way to live within all of it." In a profound work that pivots from the biggest questions about American history and ideals to the most intimate concerns of a father for his son, Ta-Nehisi Coates offers a powerful new framework for understanding our nature's history and current crisis. Americans have built an empire on the ideal of race, a falsehood that damages us all, but falls most heavily on the bodies of Black women and men. Bodies exploited through slavery, segregation, and today threatened, locked up, and murdered out of all proportion. What is it like to inhabit a Black body and find a way to live within it? And how can we all honestly reckon with this fraught history and free ourselves from its burden? Between the World and Me is Ta-Nehisi Coates' attempt to answer these questions in a letter to his adolescent son. So I believe James Baldwin wrote With the Fire on High as a letter to somebody as well, maybe a nephew or something. So that's interesting that it's a similar format to that book, which I have read. So I'm excited to read this. Yeah, I'm also reading another book that kind of incidentally goes hand in hand with this. It's called South to America by Imani Perry. It's not part of this TBR, but I do have that as a library book. I'm hoping I have it on ebook, so it keeps getting automatically returned when I don't finish it. I'm hoping to finish that this month as well. So that's officially on my TBR as well. And last pick, Move Forward 11. Collection of short stories. And then the last prompt that I landed on was to read a collection of short stories. And for this, I picked Stories of Your Life and Others by Ted Chiang, which is, it includes the story that the movie Arrival is based on. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love that movie. If you've not seen it, it's so good. It's about a linguist who is called in to try to communicate with these like alien species that land on Earth. And just the way it all maps out is fascinating. It plays with like time in a really interesting way. And also I really like books that utilize language and the power of words and communication. That's something that I'm learning about myself and movies, I guess, because I loved Arrival and that's a film. But if you like that kind of thing, that's really interesting. So I wanted to read the source material. I bought this last year when we were in Seattle, and I haven't read it yet. So it's been almost a year since I bought this, and it's time for me to finally dig into this. I thought about bringing this on vacation, but I didn't end up doing that because, well, I had other things to bring. So that's it for my Sorry TBR. In addition, I'm also reading that ebook that I just told you about, which is called South to America by Imani Perry, and that's about, it's nonfiction. It's about a woman who is like traveling through the South, and she sort of is just writing about different pieces of time and history that happened in different places. Also her impressions of the here and now of those places. And it's sort of a love letter to the South, but also it talks a lot about how like the South is very misunderstood, especially with the perspective of race relations in the South. She talks a lot about being a Black woman from Alabama and then her experiences there, and also her experiences in like academia and living in the North and the Northeast, which is, she just has a really interesting perspective on things. It's not my favorite nonfiction I've ever read. I've talked about this in a vlog somewhere. Also, I'll try to remember to link it. I don't remember what vlog it was. It was a couple months ago. But yeah, I've been reading this one for a while because it definitely is like a take your time, and each chapter sort of covers a place. And while I think it's an interesting way to tell the story, I don't feel like it's narratively cohesive enough. So some chapters are better than others, and some sections make more sense, like as far as the narrative goes than others, because it is like narrative nonfiction. So not my favorite, but I am reading it, and I do really enjoy her perspective, even though it's not like the best book I've ever read. I'm also continuing my buddy read of Grapes of Wrath. Sorry that I'm using a straw wrapper as my bookmark in this. I don't know how that happened. I was somewhere and I didn't have a bookmark, so I put a straw wrapper in here, but I'm still reading this. I'm still liking this. This is not at all where it is because I actually got an audiobook. I caved and purchased an audiobook so that I could listen to it because my physical reading has just been so atrocious. But that is about the Joad family, and it's about the Dust Bowl in the 20s, I think, when basically the land in the breadbasket of America, like Oklahoma, Kansas, Arkansas, was overfarmed. And so all of the land died, because what you're supposed to do sort of is rotate crops so that your land has a break. And because they were over-farming it, it was being over-eroded, and then it was blowing up as dust. And there was also a drought at this time, which is why the land was so dry. So a lot of people moved out to California, and this is about one particular family and their move out west. And I'm buddy reading this with Amy from A-Star Reads. We are still chugging our way through this. We both, I guess, had a much busier May than we anticipated, or just did not get as much reading done as we anticipated. So it's good. I was really worried that we were just going to give up on it because of how far behind I was getting, but we're still at it. So I'm still reading that. Other things I am currently reading, I'm currently listening to an audiobook of The Devil in the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. I'm listening to this as a part of a sort of reading popular mystery thriller vlog thing. Basically what happened was I was on Goodreads, and I read those like articles that they make where the editor like puts together groups of books sometimes, and I realized that those could be like really good grounds for reading vlogs. So hopefully in June I will have my popular mystery thrillers reading vlog go up, so you can see the different mystery thrillers that other people seem to really like that are really highly rated on Goodreads and how I felt about them. I have read a few books for this already, and The Devil in the Dark Water is the one I'm reading right now. So I'm about halfway through that one, a little over halfway through. So I will hopefully have that vlog up this month for you. I also got an audiobook for a book that I own. So let me grab it. Oh, there it is. I was supposed to read this as part of my May TBR, but like I mentioned, I did not really finish very many things in May. I read a good bit, but just not everything that I planned on reading because I was really busy. If you don't know, I got married in May. I also went to Spain for a week in May. So I have not had the best reading month, but I did have a great life month. But I was going to read The Swimmers by Julie Otsuka. And now I'm going to read this in June because I just got the audiobook for it, and I believe it's like 4 hours, which means I can listen to it in less than 2, which is very exciting. So it'll take me like an afternoon. I might honestly do it after this. It's June 1st as I'm filming this, so it will count for June. But this says, the swimmers are unknown to one another except through their private routines, slow lane, medium lane, fast lane, and the solace each takes in their morning or afternoon laps in the local pool. Until one day, a crack appears beneath its surface. One of these swimmers is Alice, in whose memory cracks are also beginning to appear. Without the fellowship of the other swimmers and the routine of her daily laps, she is plunged into a dislocation and chaos, swept into memories of her childhood, the Japanese-American incarceration camp in which she spent the war, and the child she lost. As Alice clings to the tethers of her past in a home she feels certain is not her home, her daughter must navigate the newly fractured landscape of their relationship. So this is a mother-daughter book. It also, based on Goodreads reviews, sounds like Alice is not the only perspective that we're hearing from. We're also hearing snippets of the other swimmers' lives. So I'm interested to read this and excited to see how it goes. But I think that is officially it for everything that I'm planning on reading this month. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention is that every month I do try to participate in the Buzzword-a-thon, and this month's buzzword is other. So I'm going to read this because it says stories of your life and others. So this is going to be my buzzword book, just to get that out of the way. But these are the books that I'm going to be reading, as well as that audiobook that I mentioned that I have, and the ebook that I have of South to America. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books that I'm planning on reading this month. Wish me luck. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these books, how you felt about them. Also, let me know what you're planning on reading in the month of June. I hope you had a really great reading month in May, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!